Welcome to Barbell Business. I'm Mike Bledsoe, and today, I'll introduce
These
my
guys.
co-host.
Yeah.
Nah,
I'm here all by myself.
we're just fillers.
Yeah, they'll say some cool things
Placeholders,
every
really.
once in a while, but it'll be
eye candy
mostly what
mostly.
I have to say that's important.
With my minions.
Hey, it's me and these two losers. Welcome to the show. Hey, no worries, Mike. We don't have feelings or anything. We'll just go screw ourselves.
That's all right. That's pretty much how I've been operating since the beginning.
Appreciate it.
So we have Doug Larson and Markus Gerszi here as well. Today we're going to be talking about retention, and we're going to be talking about how your sales process, how people first interact with you as a business, how that impacts your retention and your numbers. So first thing is, do you even know what your retention numbers are? I commonly talk to gym owners, and we start talking about retention, and I don't know, Markus, you're probably experiencing the same thing because I think you talk to more gym owners than any of us. But what I hear most of the time is, oh yeah, when people leave the gym, it's because they're moving away or they change jobs or something happened to them. They have all these explanations that is not their fault. And I start asking about actual numbers, and like, well, yeah, it's probably around X amount of numbers, and I go, oh, do you know how many people actually left the gym? And retention numbers get skewed really fast because people will freeze their accounts.
Yeah, indefinitely.
I'm
going to put my membership on hold for a while, but that means forever, and I'm just going to kind of fade out the back.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, look, if somebody is freezing their account, just assume that they're gone. You know, hopefully they come back, but if someone's freezing their account, and it might be for a good reason, but how many people freeze their account and just kind of turn off their credit card at some point?
Yeah.
But on that point in particular, I think that has everything to do with defining the policies and making sure that there's a clear line in the sand between what a membership hold means, which means there is a finite end to this period. We agree on 30-day hold. That means, hey, you're going to have it on hold from the 15th to the 15th of the next month, and it's going to automatically reactivate. Hey, we'll send you a reminder, but that shit's turning back on because that's the difference between a hold. And if you need to cancel while you're on hold, that's all good, but we're going to revisit our cancellation policies, which are these. So you have to make sure everything really makes sense.
Right.
Working with one another. No doubt.
Yeah, we never actually did just a freeze where you don't pay. We actually made them still pay something. I think we did 15%. And so they're still getting billed at some level. That way you know if they just turn their card off or not.
Yeah.
And they don't forget about it. Where if they freeze it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, like they have a couple of charges for like $30, and then it just automatically goes back to a normal payment.
Yeah. And in regards to the knowing your numbers, you need to have set processes in place for managing all this stuff, and so that you can actually take a look at what your current member count actually is, and most importantly, why people are falling off or leaving, so that you can make educated business decisions. Or else you're just kind of doing that, which is I have my head in the sand and I think I'm doing everything right. I'm trying my hardest, and it's only when people move or when people leave. But if you notice, people are telling you the same shit over and over again as to why they're leaving, which is not a good thing because not everyone's leaving for the same reasons. There's probably a lot of things you're not really actually getting from them. So having either a proper exit survey or process for if someone actually does officially cancel, the right process in place for membership holds and all that. But yeah, you can't really fix the problem without knowing, what the numbers and ratios actually are, because there is always going to be some attrition. Some people tell me, I never lose a member. It's like bullshit. You're always going to, even if you're crushing it, you can count on 5 to 10% of people just for natural reasons, through natural attrition, kind of falling off, and that would be for the moving and so on. But at very least, still track it so that you can make a good decision.
Yeah, if you put out a survey or something, some people are going to give you real, honest answers, and many people certainly will not. They'll say, "Oh, I can't afford it anymore," or something along those lines, where it's a standard kind of stock answer that kind of lets them get past the survey, where they didn't avoid you as a gym owner, and they answered in some fashion, but it's not like the real truth. If they could afford it for the last 8 months, then all of a sudden, unless some radical change happened in their life, they probably still can prioritize that payment and afford it in some way. So. We, at one point, actually asked a woman who was a member of ours who helped us with some of our marketing to interview a variety of our members for not just for exiting when they were quitting, but we had her interview them for a bunch of other reasons as well. But it gives them the opportunity to talk to a third party, so to speak, where they know that it's there's some amount of anonymity there where they're not talking to me and Mike, who they respect and they don't want to disappoint, or they don't want us to feel negative toward them for whatever answers they give. And so if you can have someone quit and then have some other third party speak to that person, you might get, especially if they're good at interviewing people, you might get the root cause. And if you can do that like 10 times in a row, then maybe you'll have a much better idea of why people are leaving in the first place.
And not a random person should be conducting that interview. It needs to be somebody who knows how to get to that root. Because if it's just a third party that you're choosing, that's your cousin or something like that, it's
Right.
not gonna.
Cousin.
They need to know how to get to the root, because a lot of times people will believe it's because they can't afford it. I was like, oh, it's just too much money. But that's a very surface level reason on why someone does or does not do something. The money thing is just an easy thing to point at. There's something else going on that what's really happening is they don't value
That's it.
what it is they're getting, and so they're choosing not to spend their money there. Because most gyms aren't charging more than $250 a month, and the average person can afford $250 a month no matter what. They can stop going to the bar, they could stop eating out so much, they could turn off their cable. There are places where people could cut, but they value these other things more than their gym membership. And so it's really a value question. So when someone says it's too expensive, they're just trying to get out quick, and they may believe that themselves, and that's why they're going to respond that way. But not being able to afford it is never the real reason.
Yeah, when someone comes to your gym, they have, and they intend to sign up, or they do sign up, they have a certain amount of assumptions and or expectations about what they're going to get with your service. And so they're comparing what they think they're going to get before they've actually been a member. They're comparing what they think they're going to get with the money that they're going to spend, and they're comparing the value between the two. And so initially, if they think they're going to get double whatever the value is, then it totally makes sense. But then after being a member, if what they actually experience is different than what they expected, then there's a problem with expectations there. And then all of a sudden, if what they thought they were going to get is less than what they perceive the value of what they paid to be, then they're going to leave. So fundamentally, that's a problem with communication. That's a problem with managing the expectations of the clients. You didn't go through the process well enough of asking them what they think they're going to get and what their expectations happen to be. Or maybe if you just don't run a very tight ship and you're not very good at fulfilling the promises that you promise, or you're overselling and under delivering, that might be a problem. But in a lot of cases, it's just the fact that you didn't dig into what the client actually wants and what they really fully expect out of being a member at your gym. Then because you didn't set up expectations correctly, and there was miscommunication, they end up just being like, you know what, it's not what I thought it was going to be, and then they try to bail.
Yeah, and I don't think expectations are linear. It's not like, oh, this is of low value and this is of high value. You could promise something that's way on the other side. You could say, their expectations might be that I'm getting classes and gym membership, and they don't have the expectation that are purchasing coaching, so they never take advantage of the thing that's available to them at all times because it wasn't communicated to them clearly in the beginning. And now they're not getting the results that some other people are getting, and now they want to quit because they bought a gym membership not understanding that they actually purchased coaching and they're not even taking advantage of it. So it's not even a value it's not even setting expectations of value in a linear way. I see it as like a big round target.
Yeah, it's three-dimensional.
You might be over here and they're over here, and it's not so much about how much value is being produced. It's like they may not even be taking advantage of the value that you're intending to deliver.
It's just bad communication. Most people think that the sales process is just getting someone to buy a membership, but all it really is the start of a relationship and making sure that you set the expectations and educate someone on, and really you need to put some thought into this, because you got to think about what it is that we're bringing and what our offer is and what really the sinkers are in our value of being a part of this community, and make sure that you make that a part of your education process. So when you're bringing people in, the sales process and that initial onboarding phase is everything.
Yeah.
And you have to set those expectations and make people understand, you're not just coming in, hey, we have really great workouts, we get people fit and it's a lot of fun, or we have great community, great coaching. You have to translate all of that stuff to them in a way that they actually hear you and understand you so they can do something with it. If they don't actually process it, that's when you see that 3 to 6 month drop off where you're like, man, we sold a shit ton of memberships. And then 3 to 6 months later, they're falling right back out the door where they're saying, you know what? I just got busy, or I just can't really afford it. That is a clear sign that you screwed up on the very front end of that expectation management and relationship setup process.
Yeah.
And that's all in your sales process.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you should constantly be treating your athletes like they are mentees. Like you are mentoring them, you are coaching them. And so if you're going to mentor or coach somebody in any situation, whether it's fitness or business or life or yoga, it doesn't really matter. You should be asking them, hey, how are you doing? Like what is there any way that I can help you? Is there anything that you're frustrated or concerned about that didn't go the way that you thought it was going to go? Like, you should be constantly seeing if you are matching and meeting their expectations. It isn't just like something that you lay out the rules and standards during the sales process right before they sign the paperwork and they agree to that, and then now it's over. You should be constantly checking in with them, and you could do this during the class or right after the class, or following up with them on the phone, or like anytime you see them, you can be checking in saying, hey, am I fulfilling my end of the agreement? Like, do you feel like you're getting the value that you came in here to get?
Yep.
And then just leave it up to them to tell you what they think. In some cases, they'll say, no, this is fucking awesome. Some cases, they'll be like, you know what, there's this one thing. And that gives you the opportunity to go, oh, you know what, like, we actually totally have that available. Have you not talked to Markus? Like, Markus is the guy that sets up those appointments and all that. Oh, okay. I'll hook you up with Markus. Like, sorry, I'm so sorry that you didn't know that was the way that we, and you might find in that situation that there's a hole in your onboarding process, which you guys talked about in another show.
Yep.
Where you can say, okay, I got to fix this at a system level, but even if you promised this thing and you fully expected them to get this thing, maybe it's a kind of like we interviewed Erica Maslag at CrossFit Encino. They have these really cool eval assessments that they do with everyone. Well, maybe they haven't done it yet, and you fully expected that they would do it yet, and for some reason there was a miscommunication over email about when the times were, or whatever, and they thought, like, I was supposed to get this like day one, and now they've been there for a week and they haven't had it yet. Well, maybe you didn't know that, and so like you might have just a problem with your onboarding process in that case, where if you would have just asked them, if you'd have known to call that person on day one or day two to say, hey, how's it going so far? Have you gotten all these things? You would have got them right away and got them right back on board. But because you had a hole in your process, they feel like what you had promised them didn't actually happen.
Yep.
Right.
And I think that, how you actually go about crafting that, which we'll talk about in the second part here, is really creating a process, and that you're constantly revisiting and revising as you're getting that kind of feedback, so you can continue to improve upon it. Because if you notice, man, we're getting a lot of this like at the 3-month or 6-month mark, we need to add that back in on the front end and make sure that is clearly communicated, and then you can craft how that's done. But the long and short of it is, if you don't want to be treated like a commodity, stop acting like one. And that's what people are doing, is they're setting themselves up through their sales process by having a really low value sales process and sales experience and communication level by just kind of herding people in. They are presenting themselves as a commodity, even though what's coming out of their mouth is not that. But then they're wondering why, I tell them we do all this stuff, but you're not actually communicating it. If you're throwing out either a lot of generalized information out there, they're not actually getting it in a way that they're going to hear it or see it. So I think that's really kind of the root of it, is you want to have people be a part of your community for a long time, and they're referring friends and family, and they're raving fans of what is it you do. And it's that dream scenario we all dream of as box owners. You have to make sure that you're setting yourself up for that, and that all starts in that first sales interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like once a quarter you should have like a set list of questions that you ask your members. We haven't actually done this at our gym, but now if I was to go back and run the gym day to day, and of course we talked about the guy who runs our gym now, we've had these discussions with him, but if I was running the gym, like, I would at least once a quarter, either one-on-one with folks or in some type of a group like town hall meeting, get on the board with all the members there and say, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? What did you expect when you came to the gym that would happen, that hasn't happened, that you would like to see happen? Just like have a set list of these questions where you can help manage expectations kind of in a crowdsourced way. And that's a very easy way to improve the members' experience at your gym.
Yeah. Cool. Let's take a break real quick, and when we come back, we're going to talk about fixing your sales, fixing your retention issues with your sales process.
Hey, I'm Jason, and I'm the owner and head coach at Iron Fire Athletics, home of CrossFit Poway. Before implementing Barbell Logic, we were really struggling to get people into the gym. Leads had just fallen flat, and it really hadn't always been that way. We've been a CrossFit affiliate since 2007, and back then, early adopters and their friends, who they would refer, was enough for steady growth. 2007, 2008, it's definitely like that. Then 2010 to 13, maybe 14, there was rapid growth. I mean, I know it was happening in lots of places in the country and around the world, but right here in San Diego, it was pretty explosive. People were knocking down the doors trying to get in here, and it was hard to keep track of them. We loved it. We loved the new faces, and it was really exciting. It was a really exciting time. We were growing quickly, and it forced us to put some systems in place, and that was great. But besides that, we weren't really doing much to stand out in the increasingly crowded San Diego fitness scene. We just kind of were relying on, our website saying established 2007, and like, okay, that's going to prove that we've been doing it a long time. We probably know what we're talking about. By 2015, that wasn't working at all. Traffic to our website fell flat, mainly because we had no marketing strategy at all, and any posts to social media were random. And we just stopped getting new leads. We went months before we would hear from someone who was interested in joining the gym. Like, okay, I really need to start taking the business seriously, figuring out, where the jam is and why we're not getting anybody, why we're not being heard out there. And I started looking into having a pro website built, getting CRM for managing leads and member retention. Because, any lead that we got, I could not afford to lose them. I needed the best possible way to get them through the doors and into the gym. I was kind of shopping all over the place and not really finding any products or services that I really loved. And it wasn't until I was listening to the podcast and I heard the crew talk about Barbell Logic. And I was like, wait, what are they talking about? Yes, this sounds exactly like what I'm looking for. I was super excited. As soon as I got home, I pulled up Barbell Logic on Google and watched the demo video. I'm like, yes, absolutely. Finished watching that video, scheduled a call with Markus. As soon as our new website launched, we started getting leads again. And we had 3 new leads in the first week. And I don't think we had 3 leads in the 6 months before that. In our first 3 months, we converted 37 new members, and we're still growing. Our fundamentals program always has people in it. Having Logic is like having a web developer, a personal assistant, and a business coach, and paying them $2 an hour each. It's so easy to use. As soon as someone opts in at the website, they go into your funnel, and there's a defined process that takes them from lead to member. And that clears up a ton of time and attention. What I really appreciate about the Barbell Logic team is that they're constantly adding value and looking for new ways to improve the service. They put me with marketing genius Angelo Cisco since I was struggling so much with marketing, and he's my business coach. And having a business coach is a total game changer. I'm starting to see how the magic works in marketing, and it's really cool. Barbell Logic has been one of the best investments I've made in myself in the business, hands down. And I'm sure in a year or 2 from now, looking back, I'll say it's the best investment. If you're considering Barbell Logic, do it. You'll be so happy you did. I'm working on marketing, that's my thing. You might need help with something else, but whatever it is, doesn't matter. Sales process, retention, whatever you're struggling with, the Barbell Logic team will help you.
Shoot it across the room. Only our generation would freak out. It's real.
And we're back. You can leave all that, Hunter. It'll be fine. We're going to be talking about what to do with your sales process, how you onboard. Because the sales process, onboarding is just like, even if after someone signs the paper, they're still technically, the sales process never ends. It's like marketing never ends, sales never ends. It's just an ongoing thing. It's one big system.
Yeah, the marketing process is like the before sales, and then the sales process is like the during sales, where you're actually in the room with somebody, like trying to get them to sign paperwork. Yeah, and then fulfillment and onboarding is the after sales process. But fundamentally, it's all a part of the sales process. So you can't forget about that. I think a lot of people just think the sales process is like the 10 minutes you're talking to somebody trying to get them to sign the paperwork, and that's a very shallow way to look at sales as a whole, in my opinion.
Say immature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look at it as just the
for sure.
transaction. They think sales is just you getting someone's money. That just means that you did a good job and that it's now you've started the relationship, and now the education and the sale continues, because now you have to continue selling them on what you do and educating them into your basically ideal client state, which is what you're shooting for someone who's been with you for 2 years, is a total raving fan, is referring friends and family. They're coming to all the events. They buy all your shit. that doesn't just happen overnight. That is an ongoing education and sales process of them buying into your brand, your culture, your community, and becoming a true advocate.
And this is why it's important for your coaches to understand the sales process, because, it's not the 10 minutes in the office that's happening the whole time.
Yeah, the more and more I learn about sales and marketing in general, is that I tend to think of it more as a process of education. We talked about expectation management on the first half of the show, and that's really communication, education, expectation management. It's all fundamentally some type of education. You're teaching the person about what you do, why it's going to help them, like why it's going to be good for them, why it's a smart decision, and how you're going to improve their life, not just their fitness, but like their entire life as a whole. And so handling expectations in my mind is a constant process of re-education. Over communication in my mind is the rule. You should be over communicating with somebody. Once you get somebody to the point where like they know what you're going to say before you say it, and they're kind of like, yeah, I know, we always start at 9:30, like we're never late, like be on time, then you know that they got it. Like if they're showing up 5 minutes late and they're like, well, I didn't know you're going to start right at 9:30. If you're having those conversations, then you didn't over communicate.
Yeah. And when it comes to the sales process itself, it needs to be highly personalized. I mean, this is a conversation we have every single day as we onboard new Logic clients who are kind of, especially the existing gyms who've been around for 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years. And we're kind of zooming back out of the business and saying, okay, well, what do we want this thing to look like? What do we want our, how does this serve the business to get the numbers that we need for it to be healthy, to afford staff and equipment? How does it serve the business owner so that you can stay in business and be happy and continue to love what you're doing? And then how does it serve the client? Those three things all need to be in alignment. So when you're zoomed out and you've clarified what that is, and then you zoom back in, you're like, okay, does my process and my education process, does it match that? 9 times out of 10, not even close. It's a total misalignment. And then they wonder why people are coming in and they're like, dude, but we are like the best coaches and we have the best this and that in the area. I don't understand why people are leaving. It's because they don't get that. They never actually understood it. So it all comes down to how personalized is your sales process. Are you actually sitting down with someone one-on-one, meeting them where they're at, and being like, okay, now that I understand really where you're at, and not just making assumptions, you really are asking questions to extract the information about, what are they currently doing? What have they done in the past? Why do they think that didn't work? So you said, what is your understanding of what it is that we do? What do you think CrossFit is? Have them tell you in their own words before you even start pitching or explaining anything, so you can get a really clear read on, oh, I get where this guy's at. He thinks what we're doing is this whole other shenanigan thing. This is not even close. And it's not about correcting and like saying like, oh man, you got it all wrong. It's just about understanding this guy has no clue where he's coming from, or she's never done anything like this. How the hell would she ever understand what we're doing and the real value? So let me figure out where you're at. Let me meet you there, grab you by the hand and be like, dude, this is what we do. So let me show you how it works. And then you are educating them through conversation in their own words on what it is that we do. Why is it so effective? And explaining, this is why people like you who never thought shit like this was possible are accomplishing things they never could do every single day. And then you take them through, maybe it's a workout or some sort of like a physical experience, and then you get to them and you figure out, what do you want? Why is that important to you? And don't stop at the first why, because usually people give you the bullshit like, oh, well, who doesn't want to lose a few pounds? It's like, yeah, but why really?
So they always say 5 whys.
Yeah, right. So it's the whole 5 why thing. Dig for it until you find out the real truth, and don't make it weird, but try to really dig it out. And once you understand what and why, figure out when they want to accomplish it by, and then you can get into the prescription mode. So we're all coaches who are wanting to help these people. We've now gotten all the information we need. We know where they're at, what kind of language they're using, what they've tried in the past, why they think it didn't work. And now we can now give a prescription and say, okay, you said you want to lose 20 pounds by that cruise you have coming up in February. That's 6 months out from right now. You said you're currently working out 5 days a week. We're going to start you off at 3-4 days a week, because what we do is a little bit more potent. And we're going to, then after maybe 6 or 8 weeks, we're going to ratchet that up maybe 4 or 5 days a week. And you're really like laying out to them step by step, dude, this is how I'm going to take you from here to there, and in a way that they're actually going to hear it and understand it. And then you're also repeating back. And I know you said you have a problem with motivation. So would it be all right if our team were to like, if we see that you're not in here for a few days, that we'll check in on you? If it's not us, it'll probably be your fellow athletes. That's kind of the culture that we have around here. And you're really kind of laying the entire thing out like, dude, you're not buying a workout program. You're buying a solution to a problem that we have now talked about for almost an hour. And I'm showing you exactly how to solve that. And then you're providing the option A or B, which one you want. Better or good or better, right? And that's really what it should be like when you're taking someone through that. You're taking them through an entire like education and get to know each other process, so that you can actually give them a real solution that they can actually hear. And then now they're going to be like, oh, I understand what I'm actually buying. I'm not spending $150 on a gym membership. I'm paying $150 to like be in shape and feel awesome about myself when I go on that vacation, which is something I've been having trouble with my entire life, or whatever the thing is, right?
Sounds like it's the sales process is a lot like coaching.
What?
Strange.
No,
And yet everyone's so
Mike,
fucking terrified of
don't
it.
fucking say it.
When you're coaching, you're just selling ideas.
Right.
Right. You're trying to sell them on doing what you think is best for them, on taking your advice and actually using it and doing it when you're not there anymore. You know, if you're telling somebody like that they need to eat clean, they're going to go home. They're only in the gym for an hour. They got 23 other hours of the day to mess it all up. And so if you don't effectively sell them on your ideas, then they're going to mess up the other 23 hours of the day when you're not there to hold their hand.
Yeah.
And so understanding that selling ideas or selling a gym membership are fundamentally the same thing, like the same building the relationship and having them know, like, and trust you, though that same concept applies no matter what you're trying to sell somebody. And just because you're not exchanging money for value like you do in a business, it doesn't mean that when you're trying to get them to buy a new behavior from you, so to speak, that you're not fundamentally in the same process.
Yeah, and this is the difference. I mean, this is a talk I've been wanting to develop and an idea I've been developing, which is, what are you, a trainer or are you a coach? A trainer shows up for an hour. They can tell you movement. They can tell you all about paleo, whatever zone. They can give you the information and then walk away. A trainer is somebody who's there with you like an hour a day. And as you're going into, Doug, is a coach is somebody who teaches somebody how to change their behaviors when they're not with you. Like a trainer is just somebody who's there for an hour. Might as well be like an step aerobics class. But if you're a real coach, the first interaction is you're starting to coach them, which is part of the sales process. And coaching is just selling the ideas. And if you're a real coach, you're trying to help people reach their goals and not just focused on what's happening in that hour in the gym, what's happening in their entire life, looking at the entire system that is their life and finding out what is that one thing that they could change that's going to impact many parts of their life and help them reach their goals.
Yeah, and this is all, I mean, we've covered this in another show when we talked about perceived value and like how that whole game works. But when you look at how that affects the long game of the relationship, and you're starting off the relationship on the right foot with proper expectations, and you're really communicating to someone in a way that they can hear you, what we're going to be doing, what they can expect, and you're even covering things like policies, and like, you know, they're signing up and saying, you're saying, hey, you know what, and you know, if you ever need to put your membership on hold for any, you know, whatever reason, we offer 30, 60, 90-day holds, or if you need to ever cancel your membership, we totally understand. Things come up, things change. We just ask for a 30-day notice. We're a small business, and we have you fill out all this stuff on our site. Just in conversation, explaining these things, so someone is like, okay, got it, and you're like, cool, is that fair? Get in it. Make sure you're getting acknowledgments that they heard that and that, you know, it's fair, or yes, I got it. You're really getting someone to understand the whole picture. And I always call it planting seeds. Is that you're really planting seeds for these things, for whether it's around the policies or it's like, okay, so here's what's going to happen next. You're going to go, we had a one-on-one environment today. The next step is to go to small group where we're going to be doing this or this or that, whatever the process is. And you're laying out things like, you know, and if there's ever anything that bothers you, like that old shoulder injury you were telling me about that kind of acts up every now and again, or if something's ever bothering you, let us know before it's a problem rather than letting it break and then coming to me and being like, Coach, I got to cancel my membership. My arm's going to fall off. You're saying, hey, man, my shoulder's starting to feel a little funky again. And, you know, hey, the coach is here. That's what we eat, sleep, and breathe is human movement. So don't hesitate to speak up. You're kind of hedging off and like planting the seeds for like the most common reasons you're getting from people as to why someone might hold their membership or quit their membership or has left for dissatisfaction of any kind. You're planting those seeds in the very beginning as like, hey, totally normal. Just communicate with me before it's a problem because I'll solve it. That's what we do. That's what we're here to do, is to help serve you. This is an ongoing relationship, not like a transactional thing. We, unlike a lot of other gyms, we don't just have people show up, do a workout, and go home. You'll notice people come early, they hang out, they stay late, we do social events together. So by that same rationale, don't hesitate to speak up and ask us if you need anything or if something's bothering you. We're really good at working with our athletes. And now you have set the relationship up on the right foot and really planted the seed for all these potential kind of things down the road for you to be in control of them, rather than it's like this, they bought it, oh shit, I'm gonna take the money and run and just hope they don't quit
Out the back door.
I'm just gonna provide really good coaching or a really good program or a really clean facility and hope that they don't quit, rather than saying, look, I know that this shit happens and it's all good, but just make sure you let me know before we get to the point of where you need to cancel or leave or whatever, so I can help you through it, because we solve these problems, which may seem like a huge problem to you, we may be able to solve like that.
Yeah, and it's super hard to remember every single point in policy, especially if you start hiring other people and they're supposed to remember every single point in policy. Even if you cover it in the staff meetings, like what they remember you saying is going to change by the time they tell another client. You're playing the telephone game, so to speak, where it's all going to be altered and it will shift by the time it actually gets to somebody. And then by the time they hear it, their memory will continue to change of what that policy was, depending on what they want it to be.
It's good to write it down.
Internal telephone.
So you have to have some checklist of some kind.
Yes.
So some signs
Document
of membership, there's got to be some that says, okay, if you want to freeze your membership, here's the policy, and then you can walk them through it. They don't need to read. Like when you buy a car, like they give you like a 4-page sheet, and it's like initial here, sign at the bottom, sign here. It's like endless paperwork. They do all that for a reason, but you don't need to make it that complicated. But you should have some like base, easy to follow policy guideline where they understand all the expectations. That way they can reference it if they need to, and or you make sure that you don't forget to tell them how to freeze their membership, or you don't forget to tell them that it's bring your friend for free on Saturday mornings, and then they don't do it for 6 months, and then they're like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And you can do that with either the checklist for just yourself, like, hey, I'm going to make sure I cover all these points. These are a few things I want to cover before we move on today. And you rattle them off and explain them in real man's terms. It doesn't have to be the contract where you're like, all right, buddy, like page 19, section 4B. Just make it real life, real conversation. Say, does that make sense? Do you got that? You understand that? And you can move on, and it can be, hey, it's in depth in your user agreement. We email that to you. It's in your inbox. You already signed that when you came in, but I just want to make sure you understood this stuff. Or you can actually have it be like a bullet pointed checklist, like, hey, initial here, that I understand this. I'll give you a copy too. And you've got the extended version in the contract. But checklists are I think key, because we do get into a groove, especially if you're the owner doing this stuff. Like if you're the intake person, you're the person who just knows all the policies and rules, and you're just like the ultimate freestyler as the owner, because no one knows as much shit as you do. You definitely should start documenting this, because at some point you should be able to probably hand this over to someone, or very least have someone cover for you, and be able to say, okay, well, these are all the key points. If not, just hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, and if you ever get someone that comes in the office and they're like, "Hey, I got a question about this thing. I thought it was like this," and you're like, "No, it's actually like it's this other thing," and they're like, "No, like Bob told me," and they start to play that game. Like
That's when you walk out the door and you say, "Bob, you're fired."
Get your ass in here.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever end up with that type of situation where you can tell there's some type of conflict, or there's friction, there's a miscommunication, misunderstanding, then you go, "Oh, okay, I see what's going on here." You fix that particular situation, but then you pull yourself back in and you say, okay, where do I need to fix this at a system level? Do I need to go in and update the sheet we just talked about? Like, is there not a line item with the checkbox on there for the conflict or the question that person just had? How do I make sure that never happens again? Because if they're thinking it, someone else is probably thinking it. And so you don't want that problem to persist, so you got to go fix it at a system level.
Yeah. And on that same note, you can not just worry about like the policies and the minimum standards. You can also be planting seeds for like premium services and things down the road. For example, if you plan on, or if your whole business model revolves around, hey, eventually we'd like to get you on personal training or program design or nutrition coaching, like you can have a 10 to 30 second conversation where you're saying like, hey, you're going to start with our onboarding, and after you're done with that, you're going to be in our group classes. Most of our athletes tend to start to have really specific goals, like at the 3 to 6 month mark. We offer a free performance consultation. It is for members only, but that's where you can sit down with a coach and figure out what your goals are and see if any of our, whether it's one-on-one coaching or our custom programming options, are going to be a good fit to really kind of help expedite the process for you. Usually it's about 3 to 6 months, but if it comes up before that, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can do it anytime. So that little 30-second bit, someone knows, oh, that's like what most people do, is that, at the 3 to 6 month mark, I should probably be thinking about some sort of custom program or personal training. And now you're planting the seed for when your automatic email, or you're sending something out in your newsletter about highlighting personal coaching, and if you're interested, let us know. They're like, oh, that's right. And I've been doing this about, and maybe I do want to start working on my Oli, or got to get those damn double unders, or whatever it is. They'll start associating the solution with what you planted the seed for after that very first intro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, clearly mapping a progression for somebody is really good for intrinsic motivation. So what I like about, as an example, I do jiu-jitsu and MMA, mixed martial arts, and the whole deal. And I've done no-gi jiu-jitsu, where you just show up in shorts and t-shirt and you wrestle, and there's no like blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt like jiu-jitsu has, where jiu-jitsu is kind of gamified, where there's always like, I'm trying to get the next belt. There's always like the next thing to get. I'm trying to get another stripe on my belt. There's a clear progression in mind. It's just like a part of the culture. And I've noticed even with myself, I'm so much more motivated to want to go to jiu-jitsu lately because I want the next belt. Where if I go to no-gi, where there's no belts, there's no progression, then I'm just like, I don't know, it's fun to go to, and there's I'm going to have a good time while I'm there and whatnot, but there's no like the next thing that I'm reaching for and grabbing for. There's no clear path that I'm supposed to go on.
Yeah.
And so at a CrossFit gym, you're not going to have belts necessarily, but you should have some clear path. You mentioned the onboarding process to group classes, to maybe personalized training, to maybe starting your first scaled competition, to do an RX competition, to doing whatever. Like, you could map like a typical path that someone might go on, so they can see once they've been there for 6 months and they're kind of starting to get like, okay, like I'm getting in better shape, but where do I go from here? Like, what's my path to mastery? Where do I go? Where they're not just like, do I really want to keep doing the same thing forever? Where do I go next? They want to see that they're making progress outside of just, okay, I went from doing 2 muscle-ups in a row to 5 muscle-ups in a row. That's cool, but there should be a more clearly defined path than just being able to do more repetitions or more weight.
What does it mean that I did 5? It means, I've either worked up in, like, we at Active had a level system for our athletes. That was like, if you started at 0, that's going to keep you busy for the next like 4 or 5 years to work your way through. Well, it's true. We would think of like the end game, our level 5 athlete was
I was just thinking about a gerbil on a wheel.
Yeah, that's right.
But this is where Mike's had.
This is where like I got visuals all the time.
Mike's just sitting over here. Can we edit that in where it's just like Mike's head with a little?
It was the gerbil in his head. That's right.
Dude, he's
trying to run fast enough.
He's going as fast as he could, couldn't keep up. It's like,
Yeah, so we created like a level system for that, so that someone could clearly see, like, hey, you're going to start off, and after you finish our active on-ramp, you're going to be a level 1 athlete. Most of our active level 1 athletes are, usually going to be in that space. If you're training 4 or 5 days a week, you can think 3 to 6 months, and during those 3 to 6 months, we're going to cover all the basics of like stability and all the different things we had laid out. And then you'll be ready for level 2. And the workout of the day is always mapped out in all those different versions. So someone knew, I've got something to work towards. And we would kind of plant the seed on expectations of, hey, your first 3 to 6 months, it's going to be about getting really good at the basics. Don't worry about the guy, throwing the barbell around like crazy over here or adding a bunch of blue plates on. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So really stick to your coach's guidance, because they're here to make sure you get ultimate success. And little things like that, like listen to your coaches. And these are all seeds we talked about in the for the fundamentals, where you want to be planting that stuff, but you can set it up in the intro already when you're kind of handing someone off from sale to like getting started.
Yeah.
I also think it's really important for the clients or the athletes to know exactly what to do if a problem arises. If they have a complaint, or they just want to make a comment about, like, the bathrooms are never clean, or if they're like, like, it'd really be cool if we had another rower, or whatever. Like, if they have something to say, rather than having to approach the gym owner or a coach or whatever. Some people, they don't want to be in conflict, and they don't want to be the problem child, and they just they don't want any part of it. So having like a comment box or a page on your website that's just like, leave a comment, and it can be anonymous, or you can leave your name and email if you want to, depending on what the comment is and how friendly you are towards letting that person know that you're the one making the comment. Everyone should know exactly how to bring up an issue if an issue arises, though. Because if they don't know, then the default thing to do is to be like, whatever, I just won't worry about it. And then, of course, the problem gets worse until it's like a real problem, and now everyone knows about it, or everyone's upset about it, and now you have a much bigger fire to put out. So making it really easy and clearly communicating how to leave a comment or leave a complaint, I think is really, really valuable, and it'll make your life a hell of a lot easier.
And it'll make it a hell of a lot funnier because the funny shit people will submit in that, like, I think Coach Mike should coach more classes with his shirt off. Shit like that. You'll laugh your ass. I've done it in the past.
That's no joke, though.
No, that was actually a very
that was a real
request. And that was at my gym and not his. That was weird.
That was more Barbell Business episodes with Mike's shirt off.
Yeah, no, but it's, you know, I mean, it's
We get those
a
comments
really,
all the time.
really good way to, here
There
we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
If you're not watching the video version, you are missing out. This is why we did the video version.
God damn it, this is so uncomfortable for everyone who's not watching. Yeah, you'll get some really, I mean, obviously really constructive like feedback and things like that, but it's, you know, it's a good time. You'll get some fun stuff too, like this. Thanks a lot for making it weird.
All right.
Shit.
Face the camera, man. Show your abs.
Is the lighting right?
Can we,
Yeah, it's all. He doesn't really have abs.
Can we do like
It's all
this?
shadows.
Oh,
we need
It's
to
all
like
shadows.
draw some stuff. Hunter, can you like do some Photoshop?
Photoshop
You're gonna
my
animate
abs
something in now.
Shit.
Like Meet the Spartans with the painted on abs. The movie's the shit.
Mike airbrushes his abs every morning.
Yeah, Ashley's putting on her makeup. I'm just doing my abs.
So
He actually doesn't even have chest hair. That's old beer hair that he's stuck on his chest.
that's where he retires his beard hair.
The chicks say it's manly, so
Hey, it works.
I'll take
works. All right, now that we've made it extremely weird, so let's talk about some actionable stuff because we have a checklist we put together for you guys to download. You can download it on the Barbell Business website under this episode. That will give you a nice, simple, bulleted list of all the key things you want to consider in your sales process. So make sure you download that and take it, implement it, make it your own, and a good exercise would be maybe to take this and to your next staff meeting and say, hey guys, what do you guys think of these things? Is there anything else you are thinking of that I'm not thinking of? And then make your own version of it.
Totally. Yeah. Take off the stuff you don't like and put on the stuff that you definitely think needs to be there for your gym. You don't have to just straight up copy it. I think it's always better to take it as like an 80% right template and then tweak it and make it your own.
Yep. Exactly right.
awesome. Check it out. Thanks for joining us.
All right. See you next week.